Welcome to another episode of We Absolutely Should Start a Podcast. I'm Tom White.
And I'm Elliot Smith.
We're co-founders and friends. Each week we bring a topic that caught our attention and shoot the shit over it. Whether it's from the world of AI, tech, startups, problem solving, or horses. If we find it interesting, we're going to bring it up here. So let's get into it.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 8.
Oh, shit, we're actually going? Okay.
Yes, this is the third time we've started recording. Tom started grossly licking the bottom of his NutriBullet, and I sat here reading the back of a can while he was, I don't know, putting a hat on or something.
You said, are you ready to go? And I literally said no, but
Well,
anyway.
yeah. Anyway,
Here we
let's
are.
get stuck into
Hot
it.
dog.
Here we are, episode 8. Hello to everybody watching. The growing numbers. Hello, if you don't know who we are. It's nice to have you here. You're in for a good one this week, as far as I can tell. I don't think Tom and I have pre-shared these topics other than the headline, so it should be a bit of fun. So, before we crack into it, Tom, what are you drinking? What you got
Mate,
there? And how was your week?
I have the... I broke my finger this week, so that was less than desirable. I am drinking the Planalto, grown by Sergio and Marisa Matavanini, and it comes from Brazil, and its process is pulped, natural, sweetness, refined sugar, acidity is more lactic, and its mouthfeel is round.
Muito bem.
So yeah, that's what I'm drinking.
Good. And just one drink today? I don't believe it.
Oh no, I got my NutriBullet, and then I've got the banana drink, which is just a banana. It's kind of like a drink, but
and some water. You always got water, yeah. What have I got? I have a Bolter New Zealand Pils, which is not a sour beer.
Oh, that's a new can.
Yes, it's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. Do not let our friends in New Zealand know that they produce good things, but this is good. Although technically this is made in Currumbin, so they didn't make it. We just stole their name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
is Mick Fanning sponsoring this podcast?
Not yet, but
okay.
Maybe hit me up.
Mickey,
DMs are open.
Mick Fanning, the fanboy.
Yes, exactly.
That was funnier in my head. Let's get into it.
Yep. All right, Tom, what's your topic for this week, mate?
Today we're talking. I didn't actually find anything individual that I wanted to talk about, but I ended up stumbling across a random comment on the internet which said strippers are picking the recession, and then it made me dive into a random topic, and it kind of kicked off with this tweet that this one stripper, feel like I'm saying something offensive every time I say the word stripper, but this one stripper found, which she said, every single stripper I know is a better trend forecaster than any finance pro or marketing exec. This is on Twitter, and we'll share this. Ask any stripper we have to be aware of how rich people are going to spend their money. Stripping is betting on how rich spend their money, and you're going to tell me that this isn't a stock exchange. And then she goes on to say, the strip club is a leading indicator, and I can promise y'all we're in a recession, LMAO. I'm getting stock alerts just to decide whether it's worth to go to work or not. So
good.
Reverse Cowgirl 69. I'm not making that name up. Records we're in a recession. And it kind of made me dive into we all know that indicators are just indicators, and depending on the day of the week, and we'll jump into this part of it as well, how accurate they are. So it kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of what are the different weird and unusual indicators out there to help predict recessions. And we have a lot to run through today. And naturally, I made a slide deck.
Well, this sounds fun. I look forward to discussing these in detail. I mean, weird stripper-related sidetrack for a second.
They're the best sidetracks.
Did you see this post? There's an article the title of it, and this is me paraphrasing. I don't have it saved. It was like, when T-Pain goes to strip clubs, he makes them put Cartoon Network on all the televisions. And there was a snapshot of him on Instagram commenting on that article, and he's like, look, I need to clear a few things up here. He's like, this is only when I go into private rooms, but it's true. If I'm paying thousands of dollars to see naked women, I do not want to have baseball in the background. It's so funny. It goes on for a whole bunch. But yeah, very funny thing to comment on.
It just sounds like classic T-Pain.
Yeah. Yeah, cool, man. Well, I look forward to getting into that. My topic this week is tomatoes. Very specifically, some CRISPR-Cas9 edited tomatoes that have as much vitamin D as 2 eggs or a can of tuna, which is a massive step up in vitamin D production. And it's a super interesting topic, gene editing and all that sort of stuff. So I did a bit of a deep dive into how CRISPR works and what they did with these tomatoes. So I thought that'd be a cool topic.
And just to confirm that it's CRISPR, the gene editing tool, not the CRISPR in the fridge for the fruit and vegetable section.
Yes. So, I mean, mate, were you in the comment section on this post? Because, that joke's only been posted 600 times.
Oh, damn it. I was actually I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, sorry.
Damn you, internet.
All right. Well, I think whose turn is it to go first? I think it's your turn, mate.
It's my turn.
And after that, we're back and we can now see Tom's slides. And let's get stuck in to take 2, admittedly, of are we in a recession according to Tom's Bizzare indexes.
Are you actually going to tell them what happened? How we recorded 3/4 of this?
I stitched it up. So we got into indicator number 3. I realized that because I was not on screen, that meant I had no audio. So you would have just listened to Tom say things and then pause while listening to me. And we decided to start again. So this is the learning. Always be learning, people. Always be learning.
Well, I made a mistake in the last one that I wasn't going to admit. So now I can just do it and admit that. Well, not have to admit there was a mistake. So try and find the mistake through this. All right, let's get into it. First weird index is called the skyscraper index. Now, the idea of the skyscraper index is that the biggest building in the world is either being constructed or opens its doors during a recession. And to build the biggest building in the world, it means you had to have, 5 years of planning and all that fun stuff in advance. And that only happens during the really, really good times when money's free and flowing.
So, what's the current biggest building in the world? Is it still this one in Dubai, or is there a new title holder?
That's probably a question that I should know the answer to. I'm pretty sure it's still the Burj Khalifa in Dubai.
So nothing has been built in the last, let's say, 2 years that might indicate a downward trend for our good old economy.
Correct.
Right.
Nothing is, So the skyscraper index did fall apart when it came to the old COVID recession. During the little dip during COVID, and also the current one that we're in. Apparently, not confirmed yet. Will be confirmed in August.
More than likely. Well, we're trying to. Yeah, I'm keeping a little scorecard, and we will. We'll see if Tom's indicators tell us we're in a recession, and if you should send money to his forthcoming hedge fund, the stripper fund.
Strip fund. So interestingly, someone did do a study on this, and they looked and they showed that it is not correlated. And Elliot, you can talk us through a number of different ways of why it probably wouldn't be correlated. But basically, they weren't able to show that was it a predictor nor a negative predictor of either situation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of those graphs where it's like, hey, look, there's a recession and there's a big tower, but it probably doesn't talk about the other big towers. And unless the Asian financial crisis is the same as the dot-com bubble bursting, I feel like it's missing some financial events too. But
Yeah.
it probably sells a few copies of The Economist. So, maybe that is index number 8, number of copies of The Economist sold.
So I'm not fucking with you. There is kind of one like that. But anyway, so the skyscraper index. But this study that went through and looked whether they could prove or disprove this showed that no, they couldn't. They couldn't. But they did show that GDP predicts building height. So the higher the building, the higher the GDP, the more likely you are to get a higher building, and the higher the buildings get.
Wait, so that seems real dumb though, because like as we talked about last week, everybody's getting more prosperous. Also, our engineering's getting better, so buildings are getting spicy. So also we're better at engineering, so the buildings get bigger. It's like the lemons and the pirates or whatever, that graph of
No.
It's like lemons imported from Mexico correlated with like pirate activity and somewhere in Africa.
Yeah, those funny correlations
Yeah.
across the world. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just
Yes, Elliot. There is major correlation.
Yeah, no one calls a relationship. Let's say. I'm gonna have look, according to our good friends at Wikipedia, I don't know if you've heard of them. If you're
They sponsor the show, right?
I mean, we should probably sponsor them. They're always asking for that, but
I do. Thank you very much.
Recurringly or one-off?
Every year I give $20.
Yeah, I did last year. I haven't yet this year. But
to
yeah,
make me a better person.
You can announce it on a podcast, so does something for you. Burj Khalifa is still the world's largest building, so if you're using this graph as your predictor, we're good. We're good.
So
Double
would
down.
you say how would you rate the sensitivity and specificity of this? Would you give them a tick or cross? Would you give sensitivity a tick?
All bin chickens. This gets 10 bin chickens. 10 bin chickens.
Good. Anyway, so that's the skyscraper index. The next one, I think this is my favorite. It's called the Hemline Index. I think we just giggled last time we recorded this, so we'll try and do better this time. But
stupid.
It's the best.
But go,
there's also like throughout these as well. There's a weird sexist tinge that will clearly made from like the 1920s. But anyway, we'll
like
put that
maybe number of female staff writers at The Economist or wherever this one's from is a better indication of economic prosperity than this nonsense.
Yeah. Women completing tertiary level education is probably better than how short their dresses are. Anyway, so this is called the Hemline Indicator. And basically what I assume is a seedy economist in the 1920s came up with the idea that when the times were good, women's dresses got shorter. And what we have on the screen for those playing at home with the audio is that it's a graph of the Dow Jones with lots of ups and downs, and someone's just copied and pasted women in different attire on it. And I think the funny thing is that obviously this is very random, and they've just kind of chosen random bits of clothing to put on the graph. It doesn't look like there should be an indicator according to the little images they put on it. Basically, at one of the peaks, one lady seems to be wearing a quite short dress, and then at the ultimate peak, someone's wearing a bathing suit. So anyway,
so
it's just hilarious.
I got the research deck open here. There's a version of this graph that goes to 2008.
Oh my god, yes.
But it's been renamed the Chic Quattro Index because
the razors.
Yeah. Which I mean, I hope it's a joke. It's so
got him.
stupid. It's so stupid. Oh, anyway, so I mean the question is, and I don't know how to answer this one, maybe you do, is where are we on this chart now? Is this telling us we're headed for recession,
All right.
or is this
I'll
boom time?
I'll go poll 3 women over here, and you go poll 3 women in Australia as to how short their hemline is, and I'll get back to you on that. How does that sound?
Yeah.
You start first. You
Episode
start first.
45,006. We'll report back on those results. Yeah.
Anyway, so this apparently the best thing about this is someone went and did a study on it, and I will say that this study was not peer reviewed, so don't know whether I get to call it a study. And they didn't find that hemlines were predictors of economic growth, but they did find that hemlines lagged economic growth by 3 years. And I found it very funny because I took that on surface value and okay, cool, that's cool. Okay, whatever, yeah. And then started doing something else, and then like 10 minutes later, I was like, hang on, that makes no sense. And get back to it, and like, yeah, they don't talk about how they gathered the hemline. It was in Netherlands only, and I don't, yeah, like what if you have a recession during winter? Like,
yeah,
it's cold.
exactly. I feel like this is sampling error in that like they happen to pick. I mean, like look, this lady in the middle of the screen in the when is that 1890 maybe? Right after the lady at the peak there dancing. She's in a fur coat. Like that's gotta be peak summer. It's
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna guess that this one lack of data.
How many bin chickens does it get?
We get a this one's getting no bin chickens, mate. This is curlew territory. That's another native Australian bird for those who don't know. In terms of marking this recession, I'm going to give this one a straight down the middle. I have no idea. This is a ridiculous index. Next.
I will also say, like, would hemline be a better predictor of global warming?
Well, maybe not. Like, I can kind of get behind the like it lags economic prosperity in that, like, traditionally speaking, a lot of more formal celebratory occasions, which are typically more expensive, are sort of gown territory. But like again, this is the stupidest thing. It's like, is this at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday or? Yeah, I hate this one. This makes the data scientist in me convulse. Next.
But what about no? But what's the limit? Like, when we're all walking around without any clothes on, does that mean we've reached economic peak?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe
mate.
that's
And look, and some advice out there for all of the budding finance bros. If you're looking to avoid the recession, get some scissors. You can take direct causal action on this. Just go around it and cut an inch off.
Cut people's clothes.
Yeah, it's definitely no fail policy. Won't get you thrown in jail.
Yeah.
But I mean,
if you
it might actually correlate, because if we get the finance bros thrown in jail, they stop doing dirty stuff with the economy. Recession avoided.
Yeah,
it comes full circle.
Fuck the hemlines and fuck the finance bros. Yeah. Fuck. All right, let's get out of that territory.
Yeah. All right.
Next one.
Yeah.
The R word index, which is the number of times the word recession is mentioned. Originally, it was in articles and stuff like that, but now it includes searches.
Okay. I mean, this one seems a little bit more plausible than the other two, except it doesn't seem causal. Well, I mean, if we define recession 2 negative quarters, you probably get a lot of searches in the first quarter, and one, it's like, my brother worked on an AI project once, which was looking at predicting who was likely to commit tax fraud. And the strongest indicator they could come up with was, did this person previously commit tax fraud? And I feel like this is the exact same thing. It's like, is this quarter bad? is a strong indicator of is next quarter bad in a useful enough number of cases. You know?
Yeah. This one's also a bit. And this is the thing is half of them were like half the articles that you can find on these things would say that they're a predictor of a recession, or they would also say that they're the predictor at the end of the recession. And I'm like, those are two very different things.
Yeah. And I mean, look, this is going to be totally screwed when some pop star or rapper comes out with the name like, MC Recession.
Yeah.
It's just going to totally blow this up.
Oh, that's a great. We should buy recession.mc or something like that. That's a great name for an artist. So anyway, I thought I'd jump in and get the that graph that I previously showed just went to 2019. And then I found the Google Trends word for recession. And it's a normalized graph. And interestingly, we are at about 50% for the maximum peak of searches for the recessions. Oh, that's a pause.
Did we go into a recession in 2020 though?
I think technically we did go into a recession, or did we just have 1 quarter of negative growth?
Research deck incoming.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't,
are you saying that this is going to be a bad index, Elliot? But it's the R word index.
Foolproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, apparently we did.
Okay, cool. Oh, perfect. Done. Well, we're definitely heading into a recession because this says.
But I got to keep score.
Yeah.
So this one gives us a tick. So right now we're at 1 tick, 1 cross, and 1. I'm not even going to go there.
It's just not worthy. Not worthy of being on the list.
No, we're only on episode 8. We do not have that sort of social clout to be talking about that sort of nonsense.
Okay, let's switch it up and get away from women's undergarments and move into men's underwear index.
Okay.
Now, this was interestingly made famous by the Federal Reserve Chairman, Alan Greenspan, during, I don't know whether it was during, before, or after, but it was around the financial crisis. Yeah, old Spanny. And he said that he looked at men's underwear purchases because they were incredibly stable and only dropped off when the times were bad. And this is one of those ones, again, that was definitely, is it predicting the end of the recession or is it predicting the recession? But basically,
so saying this is number of, or some indication of how many pairs people buy, as opposed
men's
to the
underwear
previous
purchases.
one, which is like what kind of underwear men wear.
Yeah, it's trort. Yeah, no, this is about men's underwear. Yeah. And the point is, like, this is weirdly lead into gender stereotypes a lot, and like the stereotype is that men purchase very bland, similar underwear. They always purchase them, and they only stop purchasing them when times are really tough.
Well, you're telling me that a leading indicator of recession may be a men keeping their old dirty dacks, like.
Yeah, the holy ones. Yeah, but this is the thing: is that they're not sure. Like, it might not be a good predictor because it happens in the recession. And this is like one question that we probably should clarify or at least discuss, which is like, are we predicting that we're in a recession before the US Federal Reserve officially says that we're in a recession, or are we predicting a recession before, like, to make market choices? Not that,
yeah, exactly. It's like going outside and saying, "Is it raining?" doesn't make you the weatherman, Yes,
exactly.
Fair.
Anyway, so Alan Greenspan of Federal Reserve Claim looked at this. I couldn't find a graph beyond like a dip, the financial crisis of 2008 to 2011.
I mean,
it turns out
what is the y-axis on this graph?
It's underwear index, Elliot. You don't know that metric?
Just some random normalized number, or does it mean something?
So. It looks like it's randomized. novels. Anyway, I've put the credit there. Go figure that out. That's what you're meant to do. That's what the credit's there for.
That's what the research deck is meant to do, hey?
Yeah. Is
There's
the
a
research deck
Wikipedia page
just
for
you?
this. This is just me on my
Yeah.
other computer looking stuff up.
Yeah. No, it's not you. It's you know how everyone has that producer in the background of their podcasts that never
Oh
mentions
yeah,
anything?
old Jimmy Bob.
Yeah, Jimmy Bob. Is Jimmy Bob researching?
Yeah, he's researching.
What's Jimmy Bob found for us?
The Wikipedia page is literally one paragraph,
Yeah.
and it's not that helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh well.
Okay,
I mean,
so
no, but I gotta give us a tick or a cross, mate. Like we're keeping score. The viewers want to know we're in a recession, so we got to do
could not find out.
No, we got to do the best we can.
Okay.
Have you bought underwear?
When was the last time you bought underwear?
So, let me answer that question. I bought 14 pairs with the goal of like not needing to buy them again for a long time. Then I got a dog, and he's chewed through them. He took a pair this morning.
Oh, he wears them.
Yeah. The dog loves wearing my Dax. I think that was in the last 6 months. What about you?
I bought some in the last 3 months, and then probably bought them 12 months before that. So not a recession. We're not in a recession because my purchasing.
All right, that one's getting across. So we're good on the DAX index.
Okay, next one, the Champagne Index.
Yeah,
Champagne. And the idea here is that the price of champagne. I've also heard it called the Japanese Whiskey Index or the Bordeaux Index. But basically, the idea is that fancy wines and drinks get more expensive just before a recession happens.
I mean, why? What's the hypothesis?
Checks out, right?
I mean, it feels intuitively like that makes sense.
They're incredibly premium goods, and it's a product where supply can't expand easily to match.
Yeah.
The supply is very fixed, and so if people have more money, they're going to bid the price up.
Yeah.
And it happens when money's flowing freely, and then when money dries up, people can't just spend thousands of dollars on wine.
Are we saying there's a dip before a recession? Because like 2008, there looks like there's a dip, and then
it peaks. It peaks before a recession. Is the idea
before a recession?
Yeah, so when money's flowing the most. It starts to fall
in a recession, to put that another way, right? But then, I mean, what happened? What happened in 2010, 2011?
They got grape blight.
Grape blight. Yeah, grape blight. It's an interesting one because, I mean, it makes sense. People aren't going to.
Yeah. Well, definitely makes more sense than the fucking Hemline Index. Anyway.
yeah, 100%. But also, like, it makes me wonder if there's just like a logistics correlation here in that, like, it's almost impossible to ship anything anywhere right now.
Yeah.
And it seems like then it would be harder to get expensive whiskey everywhere.
Yeah.
I know at least in the Japanese whiskey world, there is currently like a big shortage of aged whiskey anyway. So much so that like, if you work for like Suntory and stuff, you're not allowed to buy anything over like 9 years or something. I think it was because it's just like
they've run out almost, right?
Yeah. Okay, so
I've also heard it called the Rolex Index, but it's basically like incredibly
luxury
premium goods get luxury goods get with a constricted supply get stupidly expensive during the good times before the good times end.
I believe that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to ask you next?
How much champagne have you bought recently?
I think we bought a bottle because my sister just got a house.
Was it actual champagne?
Oh no, it was also on Mother's Day. It was for my mum because I bought that brand that's called Mum.
Yeah,
Or
good.
Moom.
So you've been buying more champagne. I bought a bottle of champagne recently as well. I
Yeah.
bought the brute. The I bought Mum as well. Yeah.
For
Okay.
your mum?
Which means no. I forgot Mother's Day this year.
Just say it's on a different day in the UK.
So I did, and then I missed that one too.
Wild. Okay. Beautiful.
So you bought champagne, and I bought champagne
But how do we know if it's the
during the
peak?
good times. I think we've peaked. I'm not going to buy champagne again for the rest of the year, probably.
And at least until Mother's Day next year.
Well,
if you remember. All right. So
which
that one gives us a tick, right?
That's a tick. That's a tick.
All right. All right, good.
Well, while you're doing the research, just jump up and see what the price is. Like this was the 10-year graph that I was trying to find. See what the LivX 1000 indice is at the moment, and whether it's below.
Live dash EX
Dash A
1000. All right.
So it's like a
Billy Bob, you got this?
conglomerate.
Jim
Bob, yeah.
Was it Jim Bob or Billy Bob? I can't remember who.
It was Jim Bob.
Jim Bob.
Yeah.
Right now we are sitting at 461.
Okay.
And it's
what was
not
it
turned around.
a year ago?
386.
Well, it's peaking. We're definitely in a recession.
Well, not necessarily,
peaking.
Right? It could just.
It's it's peaked.
All right. Well,
Elliot, let me move on.
Okay.
Okay. And now here's all the other ones that I found that I couldn't find enough information on, but I thought were hilarious.
Yeah.
The first one was the lipstick index.
Okay, what's that?
Basically, and this is like if you put them all together, they all cancel each other out in terms of.
Tom, it's a voting system. We're in a democratic nation. We're going to go through each one. What's the lipstick?
They all cancel themselves out in terms of theories, and the theory for the underlying theory for the lipstick index is that once again, this is a quote from them, not me. Women buy pick-me-ups during hard times, and so lipstick sales increasing is kind of like the marker of the end of the recession.
Okay.
This has been shown to fail. One is that it was thought up of by the chairman of Estee Lauder, who is a renowned bad person from a how he treats women point of view. But moving on. Then it has been proven to not be true in a lot of different cases.
Sorry, just pause on that. Estee Lauder, that's a lipstick brand, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Was this okay?
Yeah.
Good.
So anyway, the chairman of a lipstick brand noticed this. It doesn't hold true for other cheap but pick-me-ups like nail polish, and it didn't hold up during the pandemic at all. And people's justification was that people wore less makeup during the pandemic.
This just sounds like whoever this person is trying to sell more product, and it's a marketing. Yeah. So, I mean, do we get a tick or a cross for the lipstick index, Tom?
It got it. It's a cross. It's a cross.
It's a cross. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Next one. Haircut.
I really like this one. There was no data on it, but basically a guy who ran a bunch of chain of barbers across New York noticed that haircuts went from every 6 weeks to about every 9 weeks during a recession. And as people started to get more haircuts, they started to like get out of the recession. Couldn't find any like graph or anything on it, but I like that.
Okay. So tick cross. Are you at a 6 week?
I like it, so let's give it a tick.
9 weeks?
I'm gonna give it a tick. I'm actually getting one. I'm actually getting one today, and it's been 4 weeks. So, and that's above my. That's.
So I mean,
maybe we're exiting the recession.
That's saying no recession, right? All right, next. Divorce
rate index.
Yeah. Okay. Brutal.
Yeah. Divorces spike. There wasn't much other than that, like towards the end of a recession, divorces spike. But like, yeah, let's just say it didn't really predict any of the early recessions, like from before 1950, because divorce wasn't really a thing.
Before certain, which was it, like Henry VIII or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it predicted the tulip crash.
Well, according to Google search trends for divorce lawyer, over the, let's say, 2004 all the way to now, there was a big uptick in end of 2019, but it actually dropped a lot during the pandemic. So
Is that because they all got divorced from their uptick in 2019?
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's like being in lockdown with your partner. It's sort of eye-opening experience. Brutal. All right. I don't know. Do we give that one a tick across? A little in the middle? We'll give that one a middle of the road. I have no idea.
It did predict the tulip crash, yeah. Baked beans indicator. Canned goods purchases go up during a recession.
I mean,
like,
yeah,
this is the thing, is just like half these aren't
yeah.
indicators. They're not indicators. They're just like, oh, we noticed
stuff
this
that happens in a recession.
Yeah.
This is like interest rates change during a recession.
Yeah, it's called and the economic growth one. Turns out economic growth is negative in a recession.
Yeah. I've got one which is called the NASDAQ indicator. It's when the NASDAQ goes down for 2 quarters. That's indication of a recession.
Yeah, exactly. Year of the Dragon.
Wait, no, baked beans. We didn't give score to baked beans.
Oh, sorry.
What is it? More baked beans?
How many baked beans?
No.
Have you bought
any baked
canned goods?
No.
I'm still buying a recession then.
Pre-made meals. But I'll tell you what, a reason to avoid canned goods. I was in the supermarket the other day and I saw a big billboard ad for Vegemite baked beans. Can you, I don't know if you're a Vegemite bloke or a Marmite bloke now that you're in the UK. I cannot think of anything more disgusting than Vegemite and baked beans together.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that if they're going to put it in a can, I trust that they weren't too idiotic and they did test it, and I'd give it a go.
Mate, you can buy chicken in a can like tuna. That just putting things in cans is not a good indicator. The can index is not a good indicator of general sound decision making. Let's get that out there right now.
Alrighty. Episode 20. Elliot's gonna eat a whole tin of Vegemite baked beans.
Well, no. We got to do something. We can just keep making episodes. Subscriber 100 subscriber special. I will eat a can of Vegemite baked beans if they last that long. If they don't,
no. Don't buy them now. Buy it now. Bring it along next week. Put it on your shelf behind you. And at 100 subscribers, you'll crack it. And we'll think of something I can do at 100 as well.
Yes, you can do Marmite and SpaghettiOs.
Yeah, good.
All right, Year of the Dragon.
This wasn't really an index but the Year of the Dragon has outperformed every other year from on the stock market. So every time it's the Year of the Dragon, it does better than average. What I found funny about this, we're in the Year of the Rat. 2024 is the next Year of the Dragon.
Shit, man.
Yeah. What I found funny about this, though, is that this is a Chinese zodiac year, but they use Dow Jones as their predictor. So I don't know how that works, but anyway.
All right. Does that get that gets across, right?
Yeah, it gets across because it's dumb.
Okay. Yep, dumb. And
the next one,
streaming.
Yeah, and I think this will become more important, but basically we go from consuming people. This article was like, people are showing that during recessions, streaming goes from 2 hours to 3 on average a day to like 3 hours a day per person. There's only been one recession where streaming's been a thing.
Yeah, the .com boom. There's a whole lot of streaming.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, but that one could be important. Like
No,
all these
but
indices have to start at some spot.
I'll tell you what, though. What does that mean, though? Now that Netflix has lost subscribers,
Yeah,
I mean that's
we're out of
tanked.
recession.
Yep. All right. So that one gives us a cross for recession.
Yeah, good. So yeah, that's all the indices. I'm just flashing up the stripper sentiment indice, which was just the screenshots of the tweet that Reverse Cowgirl 69 put up about the strip club being a leading indicator and what started all this.
Well,
She's quite poignant, eloquent in a certain charming way, and it's very funny. Yeah. We'll put it in the show notes because it's a good read, and she has like some pretty good reasoning. Like, I mean, fuck it. I trust her more than the Hemline Index. I'll put it this way.
well, I mean, they're sort of anti-correlated, these two, aren't they?
Yeah. Excuse me, Reverse Cowgirl. How is your hemline doing? Would you say?
This is idiotic.
I think we should skip before we do something silly.
Yeah. Well, my only question is like, does this get a tick or a cross? What does she say?
She gets a Reverse Cowgirl 69 gets a tick for me.
So she reckons we're in a recession, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. The strip club is sadly a leading indicator, and I can promise y'all we're in a recession. LMAO.
Yeah, good. All right. Sweet. I love the inclusive terminology there as well.
Yeah.
Y'all. Yep.
So then I went and after all this, I decided to go find some actual indicators. Turns out that like even actual indicators aren't that good. I'm not going to run through all this, but it's the AUC of leading indicators, but how like months in advance and stuff like that. Turns out everything's really good. Like some of them are really bad. 0 months.
Even at 0 months, that means if you're in a recession, it's not going to be able to predict a recession.
Yeah. It turns out that the treasury yield and consumer confidence are the best predictors. So
okay,
yeah,
I'm not going to tally these ones up, but
one more was, and that was Bridgewater Capital has like their measure of how much of a bubble we are in and stuff like that, and they did something in 2021, and what I thought was interesting, I remember reading it, and it was pretty cool at the time. They split. They were like, the bubble seems to be appearing in tech stocks rather than the whole market. And they split it into two. It was a year ago. So,
I mean, I believe that tech stocks are getting fucking decimated right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it turns out, and their thing. We'll put it in the show notes. But their things they got like some really cool stuff in there. So anyway, I liked it. Yeah, but what's the tally? What's the real? What's the real? The real vote.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 7 no's. We got 2 not going to go theirs, and we got 1, 2. We got 3 ticks. So we're not in a recession or heading to a recession or just been in all your indexes are different timescales, but it's a no.
Not a recession. It's a strong no from the.
I think this is the pertinent time to remind our growing number of listeners, this show's not fucking financial advice. Like, please, if you're using this to make financial decisions, just
go get a. We've
some
got
undies, a short skirt, go to the strip club. I don't know, whatever you got to do. Don't fucking make investment decisions based on this show, please, ever.
Speak to a professional financial advisor like Reverse Cowgirl 69 if you need to get financial
Just speak
advice.
To someone if you think this show is financial advice. Please, it's not. It's not. Yeah, good.
Okay. You better have a good topic, mate. I think we might have peaked on this episode if we're not careful.
Yeah. Just like the economy, we're about to peak.
By which metric?
All 8 metrics. Yeah, sweet. Let me bring up my notes. So
let me I gotta unsquare my machine.
Square machine.
Unsquare machine. There we are.
Look, for those of you joining us.
Chippy Bob Play the music.
Jimmy Bob. For those of you joining us via timestamps, that was "Are We in a Recession" by Tom White and his thorough economic analysis. But now we're going to talk about genetically modified tomatoes.
I was in the crispy drawer.
In the crispy drawer. And, I mean, this is kind of wild. So it'll be in the show notes, but it's a paper in Nature Plants, which is like possibly the dumbest name for a journal ever. Nature Plants.
The Nature Plants, or is it
No,
like
it's just Nature
like
Plants.
dash? Is there a break?
No,
Nature Plants.
There's a space between them, and that's it. The title of the paper is "Biofortified Tomatoes Provide a New Route to Vitamin D Sufficiency." There's about 10 different authors on this. Came out on the 23rd of May, so it's pretty fresh. And the premise of this paper, yes,
Fresh
like the
tomatoes.
tomatoes in the crisper drawer. Yeah, we get it, mate. Crispy tomatoes. Yep, good. The premise of this paper is they used a technology, CRISPR, Cas9, to modify some tomatoes. And their goal was to see if they could increase the vitamin D content in these tomatoes. So, how much do you know about CRISPR and Cas9?
I was just like weirdly gonna like flex and be like, yeah, I know about it. When like, just fucking tell me about it. I know a little bit about it. I know it's not the crispy drawer.
Yeah, good. All right. So I did a bit of a deep dive today to make sure I'm talking about the right stuff. So CRISPR it was originally discovered as a evolutionary defense technique in bacteria. And what it allows the bacteria to do is take incoming viral DNA, make a match for it, and put it in its own genome to create these Cas9 proteins. And the Cas9 proteins basically take a pattern of DNA and they say, if I find this pattern, destroy it. And the way that works in a sort of evolutionary defense mechanism is if the virus comes and injects its DNA into the bacteria, this releases these proteins, or they're kind of around all the time. It finds the viral DNA and it destroys it. So these bacteria have viral DNA in their genome. And somebody, it's attributed to, I mean, like anything in science, this is a huge number of breakthroughs from a huge number of people. A lot of, I guess, the more modern uses of this are attributed to two women whose names I forgot to write down like an idiot, but they will be in our show notes. They said, okay, what if we could do this as a way to modify or replace certain sections of the genome of things that aren't bacteria, which is a pretty wild thing to do. So they created this thing, which is, so CRISPR and Cas9 are sort of two separate things. They created something that merged those two things together, which allows them to then create a sort of a DNA target of their choosing, find it within the genome of living cells, and cut the DNA within that cell at that point. So basically, like, remove that from the genome. And what happens at that point is the cell has a number of mechanisms to try and repair itself, put that DNA back together. Most of the time, if you just do the cut, it has enough sort of safety nets in there that it says, okay, something went wrong here. I'm going to put this back together, but I'm just going to turn this gene off because I might be, repairing something severely broken. The way that this gene modification works is that they go through another biological mechanism that says, okay, let's put some proteins and some RNA within that cell as well, that instead of just turning it off, replaces it with a new sequence. And there's a lot of pretty wild applications of this. It's sort of all the stuff that, you and I probably grew up with around sort of modifying embryos and genetic selection for certain traits. but in like live living humans. The theory here is that you could get an injection that would modify head to toe the genes in your cells, and just like change your genome. And so, the
It's
medical you go.
It's always been a crazy like assumption that we could get I've always thought it's a crazy assumption that we could get it advanced enough to fundamentally change the makeup of DNA, but we could only do it from birth, and there was no chance of being able to. Yet our bodies recycle themselves probably once every like 7 years or something, isn't it? Like the atoms in your body every 7 years are different or something like that.
Yeah, and like your cells divide and they're replaced and all this. And I mean, this is the kind of wild thing, man. It's like, if you were sick, if you had a condition like cystic fibrosis, which gets mentioned a lot around CRISPR, and it's something, I don't know if we've said this on the show. Tom and I used to work in the cystic fibrosis space, not from a genetics point of view, but from a sort of respiratory physio space. But you could remove and replace the genetic condition, or the like faulty genes within those patients, and fix the problem. And I mean, look, let me say straight up, it's a long way from prime time. It's not ready to have like an injection yet, but this paper is an application of this in food science. So getting into some of the details of what they did, they took,
which is like the next step, right? It's the in between step, which will allow us to then jump from food to directly injecting into the body.
Yeah, 100%.
And I mean, it helps with the regulatory aspect of it.
It wasn't mentioned in the paper, but like, I don't know if anyone ate these tomatoes. I don't know where we're at with that, but
surely someone had a nibble. Surely.
I don't know, man. Like,
I would have had a nibble if I was in that lab.
Yeah, but anyway. So diving back a bit, within tomatoes themselves, there is a chemical which is 7-dehydrocholesterol, 7-DHC. And it's a precursor chemical for a number of different other chemicals, including vitamin D, cholesterol, and a bunch of other things. And plants produce that. But mostly it's produced as a precursor for a whole bunch of other plant useful or tomato useful chemicals.
So it's a building block for life in some way.
Yeah.
A bigger building block.
Exactly. And one of those chemicals has I just want to look up the name. Yeah, it's called alpha tomatine. Tomatine. Yeah. So it's like,
is there an overlap between?
I have no idea.
Is it called tomatine because of tomatoes?
Oh yeah. This is a tomato specific, or at least tomato first discovered chemical. It appears a lot in the skins of tomatoes. But what these scientists did is they said, okay, what if we use CRISPR to modify these tomatoes to turn off the genes that turned 7-DHC into some of these other secondary chemicals, so that then they could utilize a different biological pathway in which 7-DHC, when exposed to ultraviolet light, triggers a biological pathway that creates vitamin D. The same way that, like, if you or I go outside, it makes vitamin D. So,
wow.
I mean, one of the lucky things about these tomato plants is like they had two pathways that they could exploit. They could turn one off and still rely on the other. So they did this within the tomato, and then they exposed the plant to UV, as you normally do with plants. That's how they grow. And it produced a ton more vitamin D. So the equivalent, they say, to give you some reference points, is like 2 eggs or a can of tuna. And for people that don't...
How much more vitamin D... One is how much of it does 2 eggs of vitamin D give us? And the second is how much more vitamin D is now in the crispy tomato rather than a normal tomato?
I don't know what the ratio is compared to normal sources, but like it's kind of in the territory of, if you eat a vegetarian or vegan diet, vitamin D is a big problem, to if this works commercially, that's not true anymore. That's the sort of levels we're talking about. Which it's insane. And as you said, man, like if we're like genetically selecting these plants, yeah.
2 eggs is like 40% of your recommended daily intake of
Yeah. And like
vitamin
if
D.
if
So
you're
that's assuming
vegan,
you don't go out in the sun and you live in a dark room.
yeah, if you're vegan, this is a huge game changer. They also found that the leaves saw a big boost in vitamin D production, which could then be used to create specific vitamin D supplements as well, but it's in living cells. That's the thing that keeps blowing my
Yeah.
mind. It's like, yeah, look, maybe you could mess around with some DNA and like selectively breed some plants to over time increase the vitamin D intake. But like, you can do this in a living tomato plant and like change its output forevermore. And I don't know, that's just nuts to me.
Yeah. There's like a couple of like beautiful things about this. One is that as we've mentioned, you can do it to affect future in a current being. The second thing to me as well is it's like obviously there's some very hardcore science in this, but there's also this like art of finding the right mechanisms to change ever so slightly to utilize already existing processes. Like they're not sitting there being like, let's get tomatoes and let's make them be able to turn into cheese.
Yeah,
And
100%, man.
tomato and burrata salads, you can pick it off the tree.
Yeah, and it does require just a really advanced knowledge of the metabolic pathways in these tomatoes. And I mean, on your point before about, one of the big ethical questions I came across when digging into this was the difference between modifying somatic cells and germline cells. And so the difference there is that, modifying your germline means that your kids will inherit any modifications you make. Modifying somatic cells means that it's isolated on you. And so, T cells in your body versus, say, skin cells, that's quite a big difference. Like some will be passed on and some won't. And yeah, I mean, it got into a weird rabbit hole of, how do you think about, and this is a point where it kind of lost me. It was, how do you think about consent for modifying germline cells in like a human being because all of your future offspring didn't consent to this change? Personally, like, it just sounds like a load of nonsense. Like nobody consented to be born. So, and it just seems dumb, but I mean, the ethical issues around this are pretty easy to understand. But I mean, my gut says that, like, similar to when we started doing IVF and so what we used to call test tube babies, the good outweighs the harm here. The potential for doing so much good is just
Our mutual friend who's very on the edge of this stuff in a good way is always talking about like the day that we could just accidentally wake up and we've eradicated depression or like people's propensity to develop depression and things like that, like through germline intervention.
Yeah. And I mean, it opens all these weird and wonderful doors of like, what is us underneath all of this? And like, how much of that is inherent to who we are versus like a problem with us that needs fixing and all this sort of stuff. It's a tricky landscape and one that like, I'm glad I'm not having to navigate. But, for us, we're like working in cancer. Imagine if you could undo mutations in cancer cells.
Yeah.
Or cystic fibrosis and so many of these muscular dystrophy, all of these horrible debilitating conditions. If you can give these people a normal life, you'd be crazy to argue against that. Yeah, but I mean,
were there any side effects? Like, did they accidentally make mutant tomatoes or anything like that? Like, were there weird side effects or anything?
Look, nothing mega. Reported. I mean, one of the other topics here that often gets covered is, some of these side effects might be hard to measure at the outset. if we fix your cystic fibrosis, but that gives you a 4 times chance of getting some particular form of cancer, we might not know that for like 1, 2, 3 generations until we have enough data. And with humans, what's really hard about this is that a lot of genetic work on humans, especially in the lab setting, is done on a set of reference genomes that we gathered early in the sort of Human Genome Project, and we've recently finished sequencing. But any given individual may have mutations on that reference genome, and they may be benign mutations, but it may cause a CRISPR target, which is looking for a very specific pattern in base pairs, to miss the original target because of a mutated base pair in, say, you, for example, compared to me, or latch onto a different section of DNA and cause some pretty large repercussions. So we need to sort of couple this with individual DNA sequencing and sort of bespoke CRISPR design. This is the
I don't know what school of thought it would be called, but like the Nicholas Nassim Taleb argument against this kind of investigation is that we could end up producing something that accidentally wipes out the human race in the next generation because it has a side effect that we don't realize of, oh, whoops, we're all infertile or something like that.
Exactly.
Obviously these catastrophic ones are like much easier to think of, but actually much more unlikely. But the side effects of these things could be unknown. I'm personally in the camp of we should run after these things like no tomorrow, but
look, I don't think they should be blanket forbidden, but we got to be careful. We got to be careful because you're absolutely right. It's like mules or ligers or any of these sort of interesting, sort of more natural genetic mutations in that, like, they often exist, but they're completely infertile. And that would be a wild price to pay. I mean, luckily, it's very, very unlikely that we will, next year's Nurofen packets will all contain a little sneaky CRISPR in them, and we'll all take it unwittingly. Like, there'll be trials, and this is where we have to be thankful that medical science is so heavily regulated, because this stuff takes a while to really understand. But even from the non-human applications in food science, both in today's world, especially as climate change starts to really mess us up, and thinking about taking food sources to other planets or into space, being able to get a better micronutrient profile within easy to cultivate foods, I mean, that's a huge win. Imagine in cows, if you could find a way to modify the digestive process to like reduce methane production and produce some other output instead, just the impacts that sort of stuff could have is just massive. It's wild. It's totally wild.
There's a huge spectrum of application, and a lot of them, nearly all of them, are exciting. Jennifer Duane, that was her name.
Oh, there you
go. Sorry,
good.
DOUD, the mother of CRISPR.
The mother of CRISPR. Love it.
There was the competing labs or something. I remember hearing the story.
I mean, there always is. Yeah. I mean, look, science gets attributed, but at the end of the day, it takes a village and then some to do all of this work.
I think Walter Isaacson just wrote a biography on her. I remember listening to a podcast with him. He's done like the Steve Jobs and the Benjamin Franklin biographies.
So. There you go. Sweet. Oh man, we're coming up to time.
Yeah.
We should wrap up episode 8. Thank you for sticking it out. If you're still listening here, I hope you found that interesting. Do all the good YouTube stuff. Subscribe, hit the like button, press bells, leave comments, just engage. Let us know there is humanity left. and we're not shouting into the void.
So Elliot and I decided that we would, 10 episodes was our milestone. And we've just decided we're going to crush through that milestone because we're having a lot of fun doing this. I texted Elliot last night being like, oh, I'm excited to go to bed because when I wake up, we get to do the podcast. So we're going to crush through that 10 episodes. And so we've now made our next milestone is 100 subscribers.
Yes.
And we wanted to... Yeah, it's very easy for us to just sit here and produce episodes because we have a lot of fun doing it. But now we're going to be putting ourselves out there. We're going to be, dare I say, promoting ourselves. So if you have someone who you think would be interested in hearing this, have any suggestions to make it better, just press the subscribe button. Just do it.
Do it. Do it.
And at the minimum, do it so Elliot has to eat a tin of baked beans mixed with Vegemite. And if he doesn't buy the tin, I'm going to make him mix Vegemite into a tin of baked beans.
That's so much worse. So much worse. All right.
Yeah.
As always, thank you for listening. Catch you next time. Hope you have a fantastic week.
Goodbye, friends.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to another episode. Please subscribe so you can keep up to date with all the things we're talking about. If you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions of what you'd like us to run through, hit us up on Twitter or leave us a comment. Please do all those things you know we're going to ask you to do. Like, comment, subscribe, review. It helps us know what you lovely people want to learn more about. Once again, thank you. See you next time.